I have filed intake forms for 11,243 sentient beings across my 19 years with Vethkal Consolidated Security. Reptilians, cephalopods, tri-limbed insectoid from the Kethsolver fringe, beings with no recognizable face, and a great many opinions about the paperwork process. I have processed diplomats and dock thieves, wounded officers and corporate embezzlers. I have processed beings who wept and beings who threatened and beings who offered me money in 6 different currencies, none of which I'm authorized to accept. I tell you this so you understand the weight of what I am about to say. In 19 years, I have never filed an incident report that reads the way this one does. The human arrived at the Vethkal Orin 4 processing block at the 14th hour of the standard cycle. She came in on a contractor shuttle from the Kethsolver border garrison, listed as a single transfer, 1 body, non-combatant designation, no active threat classification. The transfer manifest described her as a civilian logistics worker detained during a border sovereignty dispute. There was a printed note from the garrison commander suggesting we keep the paperwork simple. I remember looking at her through the intake glass. She was small. I had processed humans before, and they're always smaller than the file suggests. This one was shorter than our shortest guard by a considerable margin. Her hair was pulled back in a manner that struck me as practical rather than deliberate. She had a scrape along her left forearm that had been cleaned but not dressed, and she carried a canvas bag with a broken strap that she had looped twice around her wrist to keep from losing it. She stood at the intake window and looked at me with the particular expression I had only ever seen on very experienced beings. Not boredom, not hostility. Something quieter than either. An expression that has already finished calculating and is simply waiting for the universe to catch up. I log her as low risk. It seemed correct at the time. Our night contractor crew was 7. 2 gate personnel, 1 corridor monitor, 3 block guards, and a shift lead named Druskvale, who had been with Vethkal for longer than I had, and who I respected for his thoroughness and dislike for his habit of eating warm food at the monitoring station, which leaves residue on the equipment. Druskvale conducted the standard intake sweep, filed his compliance notation, and assigned the human to holding cell 14, a single occupancy unit at the far end of the block, standard restraint fittings, climate regulated, nothing unusual about it. The night cycle began at the 15th hour. I want to walk you through the log entries carefully because the sequence matters, and I am still, 3 days later, uncertain I have the full picture. 15th hour, 42 minutes. Corridor monitor Sevthal logs a minor pressure anomaly in the ventilation conduit serving the east corridor. He notes it as a maintenance item and continues his route. This is normal. The east conduit has had intermittent pressure variance for approximately 8 months. I have filed 4 maintenance requests on it. None have been actioned. 16th hour, 9 minutes. Gate guard per OSK logs off the monitoring channel to conduct a physical perimeter check. Standard procedure. He is expected back on channel within 12 minutes. He does not return to the channel. 16th hour, 31 minutes. I attempt to raise per OSK on the guard frequency. No response. I log a check-in failure and notify Druskvale. Druskvale instructs corridor monitor Sevthal to locate per OSK on his next circuit. Sevthal does not complete his next circuit. 17th hour for minutes. Block guard Metharound conducts a standard cell check and logs all units secure. Cell 14 is logged as occupied. Restraints in place, no anomalies. I have reviewed this entry several times. It was filed at the 17th hour and 4 minutes. I believe it is accurate. I believe Metharound looked through the observation panel and saw what he expected to see. I have been trying to understand how that is possible. I have not yet arrived at a satisfying explanation. 17th hour, 58 minutes. The monitoring station registers a brief signal interruption on the East Corridor camera feed. Duration, 11 seconds. I log it as a technical fault, same as the pressure variance, same as the 4 maintenance requests I have filed that were not actioned. I do not, at this point, understand that I am watching something happen in the gaps between the things I'm able to see. 18th hour, 22 minutes. Druskvale leaves the monitoring station to personally locate Sevthal and per OSK. He takes block guard Metharound with him. He does not ask me to call for reinforcement, because at this point we do not yet know that anything has gone wrong. We believe 2 guards have had a minor communication failure. This is not unprecedented. Druskvale and Metharound do not return. I sit at my desk for 47 minutes before I fully accept what the log is showing me. I have been trained to look for patterns of escalation, shouting, alarm triggers, physical alerts, distress signals from the guard frequency. There are none of those. The log shows me a series of small, quiet, administrative facts. A guard off channel, a camera blink, a maintenance item, a check not completed, each one unremarkable on its own. Together, something I do not have a word for. By the 19th hour, I am the only staff member I can confirm is at their post. I pull up the Cell 14 observation feed. The cell is empty. The restraints are still in their fittings. They have not been broken or forced. The mechanism shows as engaged in the system. I look at this for a long time. I am a records officer. I understand paperwork. I understand systems. I do not understand how a restraint can register as engaged when the cell it is securing is empty. And I decide, sitting at my desk in a facility that has gone very quiet, that there are categories of understanding I may simply not be equipped for. I consider calling for external support. I am still considering this when the door to the intake office opens. She had found, somewhere in the facility, a change of clothes, contractor work fatigues, unmarked, one size too large. She had also found my meal, which I had left on the corner of the desk 2 hours earlier, and had not had the presence of mind to finish. She was eating it. It was cold by then. She didn't appear to find this significant. She sat down in the intake chair across from my desk, set the canvas bag, still looped twice around her wrist, beside her, and looked at me with that same expression from the intake window, the one that has already finished the equation. She said, "Your east conduit runs parallel to the cell access trunk for about 9 meters. Thought you should know. For the maintenance request." I looked at her. I looked at the monitoring feeds. I looked at my incident log, which had 7 entries pending and no corresponding alerts. I said, "Where are my guards?" She tilted her head slightly. "Cells 3 through 9. East block. They're fine." A pause. "Druskvale has a mild concussion. The others are unhurt. You put 7 contractor guards in their own cells." "The facility did," she said. "I just helped it along." I did not know what to say to this. I did not know what to say to it now. She reached into the canvas bag and placed a single sheet of form paper on the desk between us. I recognized the format. It was a VethCall standard transfer request, Form 7C, for inter-facility prisoner movement. It had been filled out in precise, legible notation. The originating facility was listed as Orin 4. The receiving facility was listed as the nearest Terran Accord transit hub, which is approximately 4 hours by standard shuttle. The authorizing officer line was blank. She had left it for me. I looked at the form for a very long time. I thought about Druskvale's 4 maintenance requests that were never actioned. I thought about 11 seconds of camera interruption on the east corridor. I thought about Cell 14, restraints engaged, cell empty. I thought about what it means to file a non-combatant designation on a being from a class 29 Deathworld, and then put her in a room with 7 contractor guards and a ventilation conduit that has been running a pressure variance for 8 months. I picked up the notation stylus. I authorized the transfer. She thanked me. She picked up the canvas bag, still looped twice around her wrist. She walked out through the main intake door, which I had unlocked because she had asked and because it seemed by that point like the only sensible thing to do. The shift supervisor arrived 40 minutes later to find me at my desk, all 7 contractors secure and unharmed, and 1 vacant cell with the restraints still listed as engaged in the system. He asked me what happened. I told him the truth. I said there had been a processing error on the intake manifest. I said the subject had been incorrectly classified. I said I had corrected the transfer paperwork and the matter was resolved. He looked at me for a long time. Then he looked at the 7 guards in the cells. Then he looked back at me and did not ask any further questions. I filed the incident report this morning. I have been careful with the language. I have 19 years of practice being careful with language, and I have never needed it more than I do right now. The east conduit pressure variance has been listed as urgent. The maintenance crew is scheduled for the end of the week. I don't think she did it on purpose. I think she just noticed the things that were already there. That I have decided is the part that stays with me.